All right, well, I think it's 7 o'clock and we have a quorum.
Okay, well, let's stand and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Janet, can we have roll call, please?
Cynthia Bucco.
Present.
Todd Etter.
Present.
George Flynn. Greg Kessler.
I am present.
Jeffrey Reichman.
Present.
Okay, got the agenda in the mail today. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda, please?
I motion to approve the agenda.
I will second that.
Mr. Etter. Mr. Etter.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Mr. Kessler.
Yes.
Mr. Reichman.
Yes.
Ms. Bucco.
Yes. Is that everybody?
Yep.
Okay, well, then we'll move on to approval of the minutes from last month, May 19th. Can I get a motion to approve those, or are there any comments or changes that are requested? Does anybody have any changes?
I do
No,
not.
so I'll approve I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as indicated.
I will second the motion.
Mr. Kessler.
Yes.
Mr. Reichman.
Yes.
Ms. Bucco.
Yes.
Mr. Etter.
Yeah.
Okay, public hearing for Symmes case number 2021-01, Governor's Plaza car dealership, related to a major revision to an existing EE plan district and a zone change from $00 plan residence with subservient office to EE plan resident with subservient retail, ... I don't, given this as a paragraph long, I don't know that I need to read the whole thing. Can we hear from staff first, please? Brian?
Sure. So let's see, let me share my screen. Go through the presentation. Soon everybody can see this. So this is the request. It's a zone change and a major revision, like you said. This is the property here, kind of shaded in red. This is the former JCPenney site and the strip center next to it. The majority of the property is currently zoned EE, planned retail at the time when it was approved. The zoning wouldn't change on this property. That's the portion of the property that's subject to the major revision request. A major revision is essentially when you're not changing the zoning, but you're going to replace the approval resolution with a new resolution of approval. That's what you're requesting. So there were conditions that were in that original approval that related to that approval, not to this development. So that's the purpose that that property is included in the zone change request as a major revision. And then this property here was approved as 00 planned office at the time. And the request is to change that to EE planned retail so that it can be used for a portion of the parking lot for the proposed dealership. The proposal is to convert this JCPenney into a dealership, to demolish the strip center, and to build an addition onto the building for a new car dealership. Some pictures of the property as it currently exists. This is the Montgomery Road frontage. There's currently a mound there, which we'll talk about a little bit later. This is looking into the property from Union Cemetery. This is the strip center here, and the old JCPenney building is over here. And then this is looking from Fields Ertel, the site. So you can see the strip center and the JCPenney here. So this is the proposal, again, to remove the strip center and convert the JCPenney store into a car dealership with an addition. See if I can move that so I can actually read that. The conversion of the JCPenney would allow for additional sales, office, and service bays. The 57,500 square foot building addition that would be here would include additional service bays. The total size of all the structures would be 181,530 square feet. There would be a new right-in, right-out curb cut onto Montgomery and Fields Ertel. So one on Fields Ertel here, this would be new, and one onto Montgomery Road here. Again, this would be a new curb cut. And then the existing curb cut at the intersection of Governor's Way would remain. There's another curb cut into the strip center down here that would be removed. There's proposal for a sidewalk along both street frontages that don't have sidewalk. Montgomery currently already has sidewalk. And there are two freestanding signs being proposed, one at the corner here and one at this intersection, which we will discuss a little bit further. They're also proposing to add landscaping where it doesn't exist and interior islands in the side of the parking lot. And then the streetscape requirements would be met along the street frontages with the proposed landscaping. There is an existing cell tower and an existing storage shed in this location on the property that would remain. And the ISR, the overall ISR, would be reduced from 88 to 83%. So that is the proposal. These would be the elevations. I'm sure Mr. McCluskey has better graphics than these. These are the black and whites that were submitted with the application. So I won't linger on those for very long. The Regional Planning Commission staff did prepare a staff report for the zone change, which was presented to the Regional Planning Commission on June 3rd. As part of that review, the comprehensive land use plan for Symmes Township was reviewed. This is what it shows. General retail, the general retail category would allow for this type of retail use. So staff found that the use would be consistent with the adopted land use plan, and the Regional Planning Commission concurred unanimously that the development would be consistent with the land use plan. There were several other issues that were identified in the staff report, so I'll go through those. Because the portion of the property that's already zoned double E isn't changing, it's not subject to dedication of right-of-way as part of a zone change, like zone changes are typically subject to. However, the double O part does have frontage on Montgomery Road, and the thoroughfare plan does call for a 60-foot right-of-way from the center line. That's not being shown on their plans, and staff's recommending that they change their plan to comply with the thoroughfare plan. The first row of parking along Union Cemetery is within 20 feet of the right-of-way, so let me go back to that. Set back in the Symmes zoning resolution, and all of this parking here would be 10 feet from the right-of-way, so they're asking for a 10-foot variance to allow that parking to remain. Staff did not support that variance. There's more than enough parking. If there's an abundance of parking on the site, it would basically require them to lose the space all the way down, which might be 20 spaces at the most that would have to be lost for that. So we recommended that they comply with the code. The lighting plan that they submitted indicates light poles taller than permitted. 15-foot light poles are permitted, and they're proposing 24-foot tall light poles. Staff did not support that request as well. I can't think of another place where variance was granted to allow pole lights taller than 15 feet. I know there are some out there that were installed prior to 1996 when Symmes adopted zoning. But I have seen where you see an older development that gets surrounded by newer developments. You can tell the difference between 24 and 15. The 24 would look out of place with some of the other stuff that's around this. So we recommended against that variance. Signage was a big one. They're proposing a 21-foot tall pylon sign at 350 square feet at the corner of Fields Ertel and Union Cemetery. Second sign at 8-foot tall and 80 square feet at the intersection of Union Cemetery and Governor's Way. The code allows for a 10-foot tall, 50 square foot sign. Because of the large amount of frontage that they have, the code does allow them to have 2 signs, so the number of signs isn't the issue, it's just the size. Staff didn't see a reason why that much signage would be needed for a single tenant user. You'll be able to see the signs, both the signs coming down Governor's Way and Fields Ertel before you get to the site, and obviously there would be building signage on the building as well, which is fairly large. Additionally, there aren't very many signs that are anywhere near this size. That's in Symmes Township, and certainly none approaching 350 square feet has been approved since I've been dealing with Symmes Township. I can't think of anything even close to that getting approved anywhere. Parking wasn't necessarily an issue. They've got plenty of spaces, as I said earlier. The issue that we would like to see addressed is that the parking spaces for display be called out so that display vehicles will take up the required parking for the use, so people have a place to park when they come to the dealership. Those just need to be delineated on the final development plan. And then staff recommended that the berm along Montgomery Road be maintained. And there was some discussion about this at the Regional Planning Commission. The berm goes all the way along the frontage of Montgomery Road, but this portion of the berm where the landscaping exists that is fairly mature and does a decent job of at least screening the ground portion of the cell tower and the back of the shed, we felt like should be maintained. So the recommendation from staff is to maintain the mound along Fields or along Montgomery Road. Obviously, we didn't say that we were opposed to the driveway they're proposing, so the mound would have to be taken down somewhat for the driveway, but the rest of the mound we recommended be maintained. So with that, staff did recommend approval to the Regional Planning Commission per this motion with these 8 conditions. The Regional Planning Commission did pass this motion to recommend approval to the Symmes Township Zoning Commission with the same 8 conditions that are in the staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Brian, I mean, the facade renderings don't really tell me anything. Plus, I don't even see the building signage, so I have no way to know that. I mean, are you saying that we picked that up at the final development plan, or what?
So we don't have, there aren't any, there are no building character requirements in the Symmes zoning resolution, so we don't require very detailed elevations. We're not comparing it to any zoning standard. What we got and what is in the packet was, I mean, it looks okay when it's on a large scale, 24 by 36, but if you have a smaller version of it, you can't really tell what's going on. I understand. Building signage, since they're not asking for any variances, would have to comply with code. It's something that typically those details typically do get presented at the final development plan stage when it comes back to this commission if it's approved by the trustees. So there is another chance to look at all the fine details when they bring their final development plan back before you.
Ryan, what kind of building signage would a structure of this size be permitted under code?
I think it's 1.5 square feet per foot of frontage along the main facade, and then a smaller amount along the other 2 facades that face Fields, Ertel, and Montgomery. It's a lot. It would be a lot of signage, but that's the standard that most of the retailers in Symmes Township have used.
How does it work on multiple frontages, though?
I mean, so this is all one user, so we would measure from the very top corner to the very bottom corner across the whole front. That's the facade length.
But is the side considered frontage as it's facing Fields, Ertel, or Montgomery Road?
Yes, both of those are additional street frontages. That's correct.
So they, in theory, they have 3 frontages.
Yes. Yes, this property does have 3 frontages.
Okay. And then the sidewalk along Fields, Ertel Road. In the statement here, it says the berm would be removed. Is in order to install the sidewalk, does the berm have to be modified?
So I think the berm is on Montgomery Road, and where they're putting in new sidewalks is along Fields, Ertel.
Montgomery Road too.
The Montgomery Road
There's
has
a berm along
Montgomery Road. The Montgomery Road sidewalk has a telephone pole right in the middle of it.
Is there somebody else
20-inch
talking that's not a member of the commission yet?
Correct.
So there is a I believe that there's a sidewalk along Montgomery Road. I've got some pictures of it.
Now go back to
Hey,
Field
this is
Ertel
it.
Road.
This is the sidewalk along Montgomery Road. And this is the
Field
berm.
Ertel Road.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk there.
Is that considered a berm?
We did not consider that a berm, no.
Is
Most of
that
this is in the right of
area
way.
that's not considered a berm, and they're not proposing that that area be lowered?
Yes.
So this is the plan here where it shows the sidewalk kind of coming up and then going around.
But help me understand the berm comment. What you mentioned that they would like to remove a berm. Is that along Montgomery Road?
Yep, Montgomery Road.
Only.
That's the only one we were concerned about because of the cell tower. That's the only one we mentioned in the staff report. This berm here.
And there's no, going back to George's comment, there's no specifics on what the signage that's proposed in the area would look like.
We didn't get into the building signage at this point, understanding that if they meet code, there's not much we can say about it. And we usually get those details at the final development plan stage. So I didn't spend a lot of time looking at building signage for the zone change. It'd be something we would check thoroughly as part of the final development plan. They're not
Yet
asking
they
for
have asked
variances
for
for building signage.
But they're asking for a variance for the ground signage or monument signage or
Correct.
pylon signage. Yet we don't have any description of such.
I don't believe that we have details of the signs, no, other than the fact that one sign is proposed to be 21 feet tall and 350 square feet, and the other sign is proposed to be 8 foot tall and 80 square feet.
And they did not provide any documentation or illustrations of such.
If they did, I don't have it. I believe the applicant probably
That's
can
fine.
show that when he gets to his presentation.
But we didn't have it in our package.
Right.
And then from a lighting plan, we talk about the height of the light. Do we talk about is there anything in the code that limits the illuminations of the light, of how
Yes.
bright it can be?
There's a maximum illumination at the property lines that they would have to meet as well.
And since they're requesting a larger light pole, did they provide any study of such?
I believe they did. I believe it either complies or is close to complying with the maximum illumination at the property line. Like, we didn't recommend a variance. They didn't ask for a variance to allow illumination higher at the property line. So again, that would be a detail that we would typically get at the final development plan. In fact, one of the conditions requires them to submit a lighting plan that complies with the code as part of the final development plan.
And do we know of any other development within the area that has lighting poles higher than 15 feet?
I'm sure that there are some that were approved prior to 1996. I don't believe there are any that were approved after 1996.
Okay. And then when we get into the right-in, right-out issues, is that more of a engineering issue or a zoning issue?
The write-in, what they're proposing, the two write-in, write-outs that they would add to the site would have to meet the county engineer's requirements for write-in, write-out driveways. I'm not sure if they were restricted to that by the county engineer, or if that's what they proposed, or a combination of both.
And Fields Ertel is a state road or a shared county road?
I believe it's a shared county road. It's not a state route.
And Montgomery is a state route.
Yes.
I thought the report indicated there was already one write-in on Fields Ertel and that they were proposing the addition of a write-in, write-out. Are there none on Fields Ertel now?
No, there's this write-in here is write-in only that exists currently. It just runs around the back of the existing.
Hey, can we
JCPenney.
stop for a second? Okay. Hey, Keith, I don't know if somebody's in your background, but could you please mute your microphone because it's disturbing to us while we're talking on the commission level. Thank you.
So this write-in does exist currently for JCPenney. This would be new.
Brian, can you show us from a street view where the two new proposed write-in, write-outs are located?
Maybe. Somewhere in this vicinity on Fields Ertel, somewhere right around here. I'm guessing they've probably not taken these down. So behind that, and then yes, okay. So somewhere right in here on Montgomery.
Is that across from the furniture place that used to be there, Furniture Fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the one on Montgomery a write-in, write-out only?
It is.
Okay, so there's no signaling proposed or anything.
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
So this is, you can see the right decel lane in and the right turn out.
Right. Brian, so a couple of questions for you. First off, in regard to the lighting, and you mentioned that there is some requirements on the amount of illumination that is at the edges. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there any reflective lighting limitations that limit the amount of reflection up into the atmosphere?
No, there's a requirement that the lights be downlit, that they not directly illuminate adjacent properties, and that they have a maximum foot candle illumination at the property line. That's the extent of the limitations.
So if there's a bunch of lights that are meeting the amount of illumination, and even if they're directed down, but they're reflecting back up because of the cars or the asphalt surface or whatever it's going to be, that's not considered. Because I think
actually the first person that's ever asked me that.
I think there's going to be a lot of light that is bouncing back up into the atmosphere, and this building is not too far away from a lot of residential areas, and I'd be interested in seeing a study on the amount of reflective illumination there. It's kind of along the same lines to that. Is there any limitations on noise, such as power drills and things like that are used in the maintenance of these vehicles?
Noise ordinances that are adopted by the trustees. There's not a zoning noise ordinance though, no.
Okay.
Brian, going back to the parking along Union Cemetery Road that they are proposing, is there currently parking in that area that encroaches the current setbacks for such parking?
Yes, there is.
So
they're
that is
proposing to keep the edge
existing-
of pavement the same along Union Cemetery.
And do we understand why that parking is encroaching? Is that part of a previous approval?
I believe it was part of the original approval, which happened before 1996 when Symmes took over zoning.
Is that then grandfathered in, or since they're making major modifications, it's open for discussion?
That, yes. Since they're making major modifications, it's open for discussion.
And what was approved before was the big box, which I believe at one time was a Walmart, now a JCPenney, with a strip center associated with such. And this then would be a major modification to such plan that was approved.
Yes, major revision. That's correct.
Okay. And I remember on another car dealership in the area, there was a sticking point of parking in the sense of what parking was for display and what parking is for employees and customers. And I also realized that Deerfield Township is a separate township they've also had the same issues with such issues. Are you suggesting in your recommendation that those parking spots that would be for employees and customers coming to the site be designated or just reserved in general?
So what we recommended was the same thing that we recommended for the Honda dealership up the street, which was that on the plan, they tell us where they're going to display vehicles, like which spaces they want to reserve for display vehicles. So our zoning inspector will know, when they're out there, if they are putting display vehicles where required parking spaces are. It's the exact same recommendation because we had the same concern that car dealerships tend to take up all of their parking spaces with cars that are for sale. And, if they get a busy day and a lot of people come, they don't have any place to park. The required parking spaces are required to be kept open. You can't use them for display because that's the point of having required parking spaces. So we just made the same recommendation to them that we made to Honda.
And can we ask that those spots be labeled differently or signed differently?
I wasn't really getting into that. I mean, there's that would be 1,000 signs on the property if we were to try and sign them each. I mean, it was more, we were just more interested in knowing where they wanted to display vehicles so that our zoning inspector would, be able to tell if they were keeping their parking spaces open that they were required to or not.
And then based on that comment, have they shown us where that would be?
No, we recommended that they be delineated on the final development plan.
Okay.
So Brian, this is Jeff again. On this the screen that you're showing, it seems to me like there are, in some cases, 4 vehicles stacked side by side within a common row. Is that correct?
So obviously, some of those that don't have backing spaces are where they're going to display vehicles. They've planned for where they're going to display them. We haven't delineated whether or not they've got enough required parking outside of those yet or not. That's why we want them to tell us where the spaces are, where the required spaces are versus where the display spaces are.
Yeah, it seems to me like if you're going to be stacking cars where they have no access to exit without moving another vehicle, that creates a lot of safety issues.
I wouldn't think so. That's not anybody's personal. And I've seen car dealerships do that all over the place. I mean, plus they're a car dealership, that I doubt that they would be putting their cars in danger, if nothing else. But again, you can ask the applicant.
Brian,
Go ahead.
going back to your statement of, can you just give us a really high level review of the process that we're being presented as far as, it seems like, I don't know if it's the right word, this is preliminary, then there's a final development plan. What are the steps that will be taken for this proposed approval or disapproval?
Okay, sure. No problem at all. The way that the zone change process is laid out in the Symmes Township Code allows for kind of conceptual zone changes to go through the required process, which is laid out by the Ohio Revised Code for zone changes. And it requires you to go to the Regional Planning Commission, to the Township Zoning Commission, and then both of those are making recommendations to the township trustees who have the ultimate authority on whether to approve the zone change or not. And if the zone change is approved by the township trustees, then the developer has the understanding that they've been approved, then they spend all the money doing all the detailed plans and they come back with the final development plan to the zoning commission for that view. So if it goes, you're making a recommendation. What you're being asked to do is make a recommendation to the township trustees. And the recommendation is kind of high level, like you said, because this is really about, is this use, something that you want to, is this appropriate on the site, the way that they've laid this site out, not the use, I'm sorry, the use is permitted in the retail zone. It's really about whether the modification to the site and the zone change from O to E is appropriate. And if there's anything that is big enough that you don't want it to be changed in the future, you can add conditions into your recommendation and the trustees can add those conditions as well. If you don't address something at this, that's a detail, like for instance, building signage, it will come back to the detailed review of the zoning commission, and you can condition, you can grant variances, you can condition, you can further restrict any of those details when it comes back for final development plan review. That's the detailed review where all of the detailed items are required to be submitted and are discussed and approved by the zoning commission. I hope that wasn't too complicated. That sounded more complicated than I meant.
So in general, we're sort of focusing in on curb cuts and signage, and at this point, we're just given a recommendation as to the use, the zone change from O to double E, and then it will come back to us with the aspects of signage and such. What I'm confused on, are we also recommending the approval of variances, i.e. the signage, or is that still on the table when it comes back to us for final development plan?
So you can recommend variances and conditions, and the trustees can grant variances and conditions. So if they're addressed, like for instance, if there's a condition on the maximum size of a sign, when it comes back to you, you can't give them a bigger sign than what the trustees gave them. And you can't restrict them further than what the trustees gave them, because basically the trustees already dealt with building signage with the condition or variance that they granted. But when it comes back and there's no condition and no variance about building signage, then building signage is part of your review. You can grant variances or further restrict building signage however you see fit when it comes back for final development plan. So that's why we try and keep this to, when we're making our recommendation, we try and keep it to big ticket items like driveways and setbacks and signage, big like freestanding signage, because those are kind of the main things about the site that you're going to see from the outside. The interior details can change between now and the final development plan approval, and then you guys get the chance to do kind of a detailed review of all the little, the smaller details of the site.
But in essence,
So let me go.
we can,
Go ahead, Cynthia.
with conditions, limit the size, etc. in this round.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can recommend anything that you want at this point, or you can save it till later when the details come in. It's up to you how you recommend it. I'm speaking for staff only. When we're making a recommendation, our recommendation in the staff report, we try to stick to the big ticket items and deal with the smaller stuff when it comes back for detailed review at final development plan. But that's not to say that you have to do the same.
Yeah, it seems to me like we'd be better served if we had all the information at the onset and then was able to make a complete assessment of the totality of the project, rather than this piecemeal looking at this, then coming back and looking at that, and then coming back and looking at something else.
But I also think that by putting certain conditions on now, in fairness to the applicant, they kind of know what they're dealing with moving forward. Again, it's not real specific, but if we say you can't have a 25-foot high lights, they already know that going into the next round. Same thing with the size and height of the signage. It seems counterproductive to me if we want to restrict those to basically current standards. It seems silly to not address them now, since staff has addressed them and they've been brought up, because it's kind of like leading them down a path and then
Right.
saying, oh, by the way, we don't like this either. So I think most of the suggestions, if not all, that staff made in terms of conditions, I think make sense. And should we vote to approve this, I think it makes some sense to address all those things now versus waiting till another round.
Brian, a quick question with respect to the trustees. Are they bound to an up or down vote on what we propose with specific conditions, or are the trustees allowed to say yes and modify our proposed conditions?
They can modify. They can modify the conditions however they want after their public hearing.
And in terms of size,
How
how
does
does,
it-
this compare with
Go
the
ahead.
Honda development?
How does it compare with what?
The Honda development?
Oh, this is like 10 times bigger than that. It's a lot larger. I wouldn't say 10 times. I apologize. That building is probably 80,000 square feet, and this is 181,000 square feet. It's significantly larger.
Is there anything of comparable size in the vicinity?
King's Auto Mile, or
The
King's
entire
Auto
mall?
I mean, there are a large number of car dealerships across the street from here in Deerfield Township. It's been a while since I bought a car out that way. I don't live out there anymore. So,
How about in terms of just a single tenant? Is this comparable with a Walmart superstore or a Costco?
oh, I see what you're saying. Maybe the Kroger's down the street with the large strip center attached to it might approach this level of this amount of square footage. Something like Harper's maybe would get close to it. I mean, this is on par with the big box developments for sure.
Right. Thank you.
And when
So
you
I
say
don't know
big
how big,
box,
I
it's
don't know how big
multi-tenant.
Menards is, but Costco's 150,000. Menards might be 180.
Yeah, that's getting up there, right?
Are there any other questions for Brian from the committee at this point?
Yeah, what happens when the write in, write out, and let's just make this theoretical, would not get approved by the county engineer? So therefore, the development plan will change. What does that mean?
Well, I believe that they've worked this out already with the county engineer, but if they haven't and the county engineer were to say no, I believe they would find that out before the final development plan hearing, and that would be reflected on the final development plan when it comes back to the commission.
Ryan, one last question, and I know this is probably outside of our purview, but I'll ask the question for the record anyways. And that is, on Governor's Way, presently, if we're looking at Governor's Way being, I'm just going to say east-west oriented.
Sure.
So the east direction on Governor's Way, when you're turning left onto Union Cemetery, has a singular left turn lane and then a common straight ahead and right turn lane, which in my humble opinion is backwards. It should be a common left turn straight and a solo right turn lane. Is there any way to address that?
Not for this commission, no. Because that's off-site. I mean, it's in the right of way, first of all, and then it's also not adjacent to this property either. So no, it can't be addressed by this commission or by the trustees as part of this zone change. It can be addressed by the county engineer, and if they feel like a traffic impact study is necessary and it makes recommendations for changes to Governor's Way, they would have to do that to get their approval from the county engineer. But that would be up to the county engineer completely.
Okay.
And Brian, if I realize I keep asking questions, but you mentioned the landscape plan. How does that work within our current zoning? What is our recommendations, or what is our approval rights for landscaping?
So just generally looking at it, it appears that it complies with the zoning resolution. I'm not sure that John Huth with he's our principal planner at the county. I'm not sure that he counted every bush and tree, which is something we would do at the final development plan. What we're mainly looking for is that the spacing works, there's enough room for the landscaping, and at the final development plan stage is when we would do the detailed counts of trees and bushes. But this looks like it complies with the code, and they've certainly got enough area to add if they don't have enough bushes or if they need another tree or two.
And then you mentioned the impervious surface ratio. Is there a zoning requirement for such?
There is not in Symmes Township. We ask for it all the time because there's a maximum in the county zoning resolution, but it's not in Symmes Township. What it does is it just gives you an idea of whether they're adding or reducing the amount of pavement on the site.
And they're reducing it via islands, basically.
I
Landscape
believe
islands?
so. Additional landscape islands have reduced, would be the reason that the ISR was reduced, correct?
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? I guess it's time to hear from the applicant. Keith, I assume, I don't see anybody else on here. If you could state your name, add an address for the record before you start, we're happy to hear what you want to share with us regarding this project.
Okay, my name is Keith McCluskey, and we're here in my office at McCluskey Chevrolet in the Kings Auto Mall for this Zoom meeting. John McCullough, our CFO, is in here with me in my office. Justin Conger, who owns Conger Construction, who's the construction firm that we've chosen out of 5 that we vetted, assuming that we get the proper approvals to get General Motors to approve us. And Randy Merrill, a partner at McGill Smith Puncheon. So I'm, excited to show you the project. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Hopefully, Rob, if you can let me know if this is working right.
Looks good.
Okay, so I'll just roll through these pictures and certainly personally apologize if anybody didn't have everything that was needed. I don't do this often. McGill Smith Puncheon does, certainly, and everything that we were asked to provide, we provided to everyone. So with that, I wanted to put a PowerPoint together today to show the latest full color renderings of the project that we're proposing. And hopefully we'll get consideration based on all the facts from you guys tonight, so I can get subsequent approval from General Motors. One of the comments Brian made was, in fact, 3 times, he said there's plenty of parking. It shouldn't matter if they have that 20-foot setback. My challenge to that would be General Motors has 4,000 dealerships coast to coast, and they're saying the exact opposite. What we sell is out on the blacktop. We're not a Walmart. You don't park and come inside our building. The product that you might buy from us needs to sit outside in the lot, and we need to balance that. Nobody more than me and my family wants to balance the proper level of parking for customers in sales and service. And I'm using the formulas, and they're using the formulas that work in the business I happen to be in. I'm not a JCPenney and I'm not a Walmart. So what we're showing you here is pretty much what General Motors is saying. They're cheering us on to get it done, but they're also willing to say no because, it's just maybe not meant to be. And then you guys will have to figure out what you want this empty box to become, because a dealership is just a bit of a different animal. So with that, I'll kind of click through. This would be the curb cut at Fields Ertel. It is right in, right out only. We paid over $30,000 for a full traffic study that we believe is going to be approved and actually improve the safety and flow through of the property from Montgomery through to Fields Ertel. And we're actually eliminating more curb cuts than we're adding. You can see when you pull in, we're not just going to paint this building white and put a blue stripe around it and call it McCluskey Chevrolet. The improvements we're doing on it are substantially more expensive than the acquisition cost of the 16 acres and the building. I will say the building became a JCPenney because Walmart moved out of it because it wasn't big enough. So it's not 10 times bigger. It's not even 3 times bigger. And quite frankly, Walmart moved around the corner on Mason Montgomery Road into Deerfield Township and left the building because it wasn't big enough for their needs. They typically do $100 million a year in sales out of one of their locations. Their average customer spends less than $100, but if we round that up, they would be approximately 1 million customer visits a year. It'll take us about 10 years to have 1 million customers come buy a car or shop for a car from us. So substantially less traffic, better flow of the traffic, And then when you guys get done looking at the color renderings, we can all decide together whether this is something that makes sense for the township or doesn't. As we propose through, as you pull into the property, we're recommending this entrance, by the way, is the exact same J.C. Penney entrance. It's got a portico share out front. So if on a rainy day or a snowy day or somebody's, got a handicap of some sort, we offer complimentary valet. Beyond that, and the next shot that I'll show you is the service center that we're adding. We believe, and trust me, I looked hard at trying to save the strip center. It's just unsalvageable. And it was built to kind of, block the view from Montgomery. The back of the strip center is why that berm was put there, because quite frankly, the back of that building is a very ugly building. This is not a very ugly building. It's an investment in the community. It's an investment in Symmes Township, and we believe it deserves better visibility. We fully support the berm back by the tower, by the AT&T cell tower. We're even going to add 12-foot tall arborvitaes touching each other, surrounding all of that, to not just, if you look at a 5-foot berm and a 180-foot tower in the big brown boxes, the berm does nothing but hide the bottom 5% of the ugliness. We're going to put up arborvitaes that will completely shield that from the line of sight and leave the berm there. But as you get past that and you get to our curb cut and you get to the investment we're putting in this building, it needs to be visible. It needs to be visible because General Motors says they don't hide their dealerships. They don't hide their inventory. They don't hide the fact that we have valet and courtesy transportation, and they want it to be accessible and open and visible to the public. It's not the back of a 1985 built, 16-person strip center. If we flip to the next slide, this is moving a little further to the service welcome center. We're going to have electric, a lot of solar is going to be on this property. GM is transitioning to an all-electric future, and there's going to be a lot of electric charging stations because we're going to sell a lot of electric vehicles. We're using landscape form outdoor furniture, which is used in Central Park by the city of New York. It's a very, very, very high-end, expensive outdoor furniture, but it lasts 50 years. It's first class, and it matches the first class facility that we're attempting to build, in Symmes Township. To the left of that, above the people sitting at the picnic tables, you'll notice an outdoor balcony. We feel like that's very important for fresh air and et cetera, for people to go out and be able to sit on. If I click to the next one, this is moving a little further in that direction. You can clearly see the 4 service welcome centers. All 4 of those doors will be built by a company called Rytech. They're about 12 times more expensive than a traditional dealership or home garage door. When you pull up to it, you won't ever hear a horn at McCluskey Chevrolet, and you don't hear pages at McCluskey Chevrolet. The doors automatically retract up into a circle. They've got a patent on it. It kind of goes up in about a second. The car then pulls in. It senses the car pulling up, so you're not out there blowing the horn again. We don't do pages for service and sales. Everybody has a Cisco wireless phone on their hip, and everything is communicated in a waterfall effect to the different teams. No pages. We do have Bose music throughout. It's set at a very low level. It matches what Nordstrom's does. If you guys go to the Nordstrom's up at Kenwood Town Center, you'll notice a very peaceful feeling as you walk through the Nordstrom's. That's because they have a Bose speaker in the ceiling every 10 ceiling tiles in every direction. That allows them to then set the volume at about 3. You don't ever hear a commercial. It's just very professional background jazz type music. That's the same thing that will be throughout this building. If you go with the cheaper horns and you put a small amount to kind of quote save money, you have to turn it way up. and that causes a distraction as you walk underneath the cone. It gets real loud, then it drops down, then it gets loud again. So another point that I would make, back in the Kings Auto Mall, if you want to come visit it, so had this same conversation with Deerfield Township, that we were willing to do the right thing with the impervious surface and the landscaping, and that we would irrigate all of our landscaping. So if you come back, particularly in the summertime, most of the other dealerships just have brown grass, and/or they park their cars up in the grassway. We've never done that. It's all boulders and flowers and yucca plants and trees, and we irrigate it 4 times a day. We plan on doing the same thing at this property. The landscaping that was called out in the original plans in '85, zero checking up on that because it was never put in. We're going to put it in, and we're actually putting 0.8 of an acre, or 35,000 square feet of trees and flowers and boulders and professional landscaping. All of it will be irrigated. It'll look first class. It'll soften up the blacktop. It'll soften up the building. And we love landscaping. We love the sidewalks. There's 2,205 feet of lineal frontage on Fields, Ertel, Union Cemetery, and Montgomery Road. Brian, the reason we're going to take the sidewalk on Montgomery Road up, we don't feel it's safe. It's an integral curb. I wouldn't want to walk my grandchildren along that curb with cars driving by 45 miles an hour, 12 inches from them. So we're going to take it out. We're going to put a new curb in, and we're going to make that part of the sidewalk match the part that we're going to put in along Union Cemetery and Fields Ertel. And you'll see that in a minute, but it'll be extra wide. It'll be off the property. It'll be edged. It'll be mulched, and it'll be irrigated, and it'll look like a golf course. Click on to the next slide. This would be the main Union Cemetery Road entrance. It is going to have a sign at the curb cut, like you see here. That's the same sign that's at the curb cut into the dealership in the Kings Auto Mall, if you want to see one in real reference. To the left there, you'll notice a flagpole. We are suggesting a big, beautiful flagpole because we're all proud Americans. Chevrolet is an American brand. It's built in America. And we would like to, take the opportunity to put a beautiful, tall flagpole in Symmes Township and in our property. So this main center drive with all the landscaping behind it is going to angle at a fishbone 15 degrees. You lose about 4 parking spaces on each side, but it just looks a lot more professional to kind of angle the Chevrolet bow ties and the front logos as a courtesy to the customers entering the main triple wide center grand entrance, where they either turn right to the service welcome center and the free courtesy transportation while your car is being worked on, or they turn left into the sales area and go under the porte cochere for our complimentary valet. This next picture is standing back. I'll call it the Fields Ertel Road view. That does have the signage there. The calculated signage square footage is 207 square feet. That is that sign. The current sign that's sitting there, that's one of the more ugly signs I've ever seen in my life, that's for Governor's Plaza, is 30 feet tall, and it's 10 feet wide, and it's 300 square feet. This is 31% smaller, and it's 207 square feet. We need, at the main entrance and every curb cut, to have representation of Chevrolet Motor Division and our name. Could we be flexible and go a little smaller? Obviously, we want to do this project, but the idea of just eliminating this and eliminating that, I then have to go present to General Motors, and they've got a set of rules that are stiffer than yours guys. I mean, it's just a requirement to have a franchise and be able to represent their product. I would say, as we take the 2,205 lineal feet of frontage, If we multiply that by 1.5 feet of signage on the building per lineal foot, we'd be hard pressed to figure out how we want to use 3,300 square feet of signage on our building. So our suggestion is, in combination with significantly less than that on the building, that we have, I guess, a level of understanding that we need to represent what happens when you turn into a curb cut into a 16-acre parcel, and that's the various either ground-mounted signage at the curb cuts or the main anchor signage, here at the corner of Fields, or where the 300 square foot Governor's Way sign is at this point. That obviously would be coming down. If you look at the poles, they'll actually be a silver color. It costs more. It's a silver metallic that's baked on with an automotive finish. For this particular rendering, McGill Smith Plunchin's computer system only had black. But if you look at the silver ACM that's at the top of our building all the way around, that's a very expensive material. It's called aluminum composite material. And we're going to have our light poles match that. Those light poles are 24 feet tall. The building is 30 feet tall. We'll go on and talk about, and we've got the renderings of the 16 surrounding businesses to our operation, and all of them are either 24 feet or 30-foot high light poles. Personally measured the Honda store, they're 24 feet. Went around to the Kroger that has been built since '96, personally shot a laser and measured those. They're 30 feet, and they weren't done before the new signage. In fact, Casto, the company that's trying to sell us this property, was involved in that property, and they were the ones that suggested I go measure it because they're not anywhere near 15 feet. If we do 15 feet, and quite frankly, I can't do 15 feet. We've got trucks that we drive around in the medium duty trucks that with bucket trucks on the back would hit the light head. At 24 feet, it's 6 feet shorter than our building and as short as any other business in the general area. So we'll click on and show you that. This is what I would call an aerial view. It kind of gets up above some of the other businesses and looks down. You can see the American flagpole. We are suggesting that we put a pole up that is the 5 feet taller than the Union Township approved pole at TQL along 275. It's currently the tallest, biggest, most beautiful American flag in the state of Ohio. We're suggesting one that's 5 feet taller. We think that would be a great signature, piece for Symmes Township. It's very expensive. It's expensive to keep the flags up because you have to change them out about every 2 months because they do tend to get tattered on the ends. It'll light up at night. We can tone it down to 10%. These LED lights, one of the beautiful things about them is they're not either on or off like metal halides. They can be a dimmer, infinitely adjustable between 0 and 100%. And we love having them toned way down at certain times because then when a would-be thief comes on and with millions of dollars of inventory sitting there, we need proper lighting for the protection of our employees, customers, and the safety of our product, not getting items stolen off of them or cars themselves stolen. So you can see the sidewalk that wraps around. We're, again, suggesting one that is very comfortable, very country club-like. The people that we've worked with the traffic study, if you look to the far right side where there's a decent patch of grass or pervious surface, that's something that there's a curb cut right there that we're eliminating that then has the people pull into the PNC Bank. But by giving up that parking and putting a big green space there, they thought that was very helpful to kind of get the traffic off of Union Cemetery and take pressure off of the light at that intersection. So the next click, and we're getting towards the end here. This is what I would call a straight down 50,000 foot view. It kind of helps give all of you hopefully a perspective on the two right in, right out curb cuts that line up, quite frankly, with the portico shares and the flow of traffic and the complementary valet parking in both the showroom and the service department. So there's a method to the madness. General Motors and Chevrolet and a company called Gensler, they're the world's largest architectural firm. GM spends 9-figure money with them, having them perfect the customer or guest relationship, the flow, the experience, the way that they enter the property, exit the property, view the inventory, customer parking. To the spade, we are matching that. The only thing that they're saying for our size dealership, and last year we were the #1 volume Chevrolet dealership in the world in total new and used car sales. So as we look at this property and we know the kind of quality service and sales we offer to be able to have that distinction, there's a certain number of cars on a day's supply that are required to have a General Motors franchise. We're short of that. So it scares me when we think we've got plenty of parking and, you know, we can just do without this and cut out that row and why not knock 20 feet off? Tell me to do that and I'll try, but there's a real good chance this is going to remain an empty JCPenney when the day is done, because they've got their rules and they want the right level of selection of the 16 models and the 5 different trim levels. So when there's 90 different models that any one of you might be shopping for, and you multiply that by all the colors that are available, and then maybe you got the right color, but you'd rather have a sunroof, it doesn't help when you don't have enough inventory to sell what you're looking for. And trust me, as big as this looks, it's not many when you're trying to stock used cars and new cars and employee parking and customer parking. If I click onto the next slide, I'm sorry, if we click back here, these are the freestanding ground mounted signs, and there are 4 of them. It's not 2, it's 4. The one that's in the middle is the 207 square feet. It's got the Chevrolet bow tie, one of the most recognized brands in the world. We have to have our name on it. And then there's a digital board, a high-def digital board that is going to be super, super, super professional and really look good at that corner, in our opinion and Chevrolet's opinion. Even down to the detail of the little lag that's got the angle on it. That's a 15-degree angle, which is the exact same angle that Louis Chevrolet put on the 2 ends of the Chevrolet bow tie logo back in 1908. So that's got a little special meaning for Chevrolet. Half that size and a sign over at the curb cut on Montgomery Road would be monument sign number 2 to the left. That's 97.5 square feet. And then if you look at the sign to the right, the ground sign, that we need one of those at the main Union Cemetery exit, and we need one for people off of Fields Ertel Road at the right in, right out to see and know what they're pulling into. If you add those 4 up and add up the signage that we suggest on our building, it is significantly under 3,300 square feet, you know, plus the ground mounted signage that you know is in the current zoning code. So if we click on to the next one, this is surrounding light poles. So we went and physically measured 16 different businesses, every single one that touched us. We didn't cherry pick these. And this is signage 1 of 2. You can see all the various 9 through 16. And if I click on, I'm going to actually go to this one first. So pole number 1, Governor's Plaza. Brian, down at Hamilton County, you had gone on record saying those were 15 feet. They're not. They're 24 feet. Number 2 is also 24 feet. The monument sign is 30 by 10. The other monument sign across the street is 30 by 10. And then 5, 6, and 7, Burger King, Appliance Factory, and Kohl's, every one of them 24 feet tall. By the way, the benefit to the drive-by public at 24 feet per the lighting installer is you need a lot less lights, and they're higher up, and they distribute the light better, meeting all of the zoning requirements on foot candles at the perimeter of the property versus 15 feet, which is down more at eye level, and about 40% more poles would be required, and there'll be hot spots on the cars.
Less reflection.
If we go back and talk about sign number 9, the Honda sign, well over 50 feet, 20 by 10. Lines 10, 11, both of those, the Bova and the Close Mentor, 24 feet. Sign at Tire Discounters, 13 and 14. The Honda store, by the way, 24 feet. Dealership going through the exact same process we went through, and their poles are 24 feet. Number 15, Longhorn, 24 feet. And then number 16, there's a 30-foot monument sign, and they have 24-foot light poles. So we don't want to be treated any different than it looks like everybody else we could find, because with a 30-foot tall building, if our lighting is half that tall and there's 50% more lights to try to light the cars up with a bunch of hot spots, they're going to look dwarfed. It's going to look second class. It's not going to scale properly. And I don't believe General Motors, they don't have a dealership that's at 15 feet. Most of them want to be at 30 feet because it even eliminates more poles and gives better, softer light distribution. Like you guys obviously approved for Kroger's not too long ago, because that's how tall they are at Kemper and Montgomery Road. Okay, next, we've looked at that already. This is parking distribution. As we look at this, again, trust me, 357 customer and employee parking spaces are more than ample. They're way beyond what we would ever use or have at any one time during a 2-hour period while somebody was considering buying a car or hopefully buying the car from us, and or in service for an oil change. Most of our customers wait for their cars. You know, we've got free Starbucks, we've got massage chairs, we've got WeWork business centers. People love coming in and spending 30 minutes to an hour or two getting the work done on their car. And when they do that, the car that they're in isn't in a parking space, it's in one of our bays. And when it's done, it gets pulled up under the valet and they drive off in the car. So, you know, we love guest parking. We love employee parking. And 357, we believe, is the right thing for us to be successful. And that exceeds what General Motors recommends for our dealership. I mean, who better than General Motors, who's been around 100 years and has done this 12,000 times and currently has 4,000 dealerships? I mean, let's go with a little bit of what our industry and our manufacturer recommends, and not something for a Burger King, you know, or a Walmart or a Kohl's. Used car display, $249, less than we'd like to have, but you got to have plenty of new cars. And $423, quite frankly, is light for what we need to meet the sales goals and to cover the nut on this very significant investment to super beautify what we feel is the core central part of Symmes Township. I mean, I just love the fact that it's in this fishbowl between Montgomery Road, Fields Ertel Road, and Union Cemetery Road, and nobody better than us to build something and maintain something that you guys are going to absolutely love. If we click one more slide to the thank you slide, and I do thank you for your time, and if I come across a little bit passionate, it's because I am. If you look up above the second floor, there's a rooftop. That's about $150,000 to put that there. But we believe that would be yet another cool signature element for our guests on the 200 days a year or so, that it's a beautiful day. And if they want to grab a Panera salad or Chick-fil-A or, you know, get a free Starbucks from us and go sit up there and read a book while their car's getting done, that's the level of effort we're putting into making this a absolute world-class. General Motors actually said this one is as good looking and as functional and flows as well, albeit with not quite enough display parking. But if you just take the facility and the effort that we and McGill Smith Punchin and my management team put into this, it'll be the #1 dealership by far in the world. in sales and service volume. And we're just going to be there to help and satisfy, everybody in the greater Cincinnati area, but certainly the people right in the community with world-class sales and service. The inside, some of my compatriots that are in the business buy big box retailers and they throw a coat of paint on them and they pull 150 or 200 cars inside on the existing tile. This will be a complete gut. I mean, if you look at a JCPenney or a Walmart, their roof is supported by the block that the building is. That's why there's no windows in that current building. So we have to pay a company about $200,000 to come in and completely support the roof while Justin and Conger Construction's team rip down the concrete block that used to hold the roof up. Because when you walk into a Walmart or you walk into a JCPenney, you turn around, they like to use that wall space for shoes and sweaters and all the things that they sell. For us to do it in a first-class way, like you see on the thank you slide that's up there now, we like to display beautiful new Chevrolet General Motors products. And it's under the proper foot candle lighting. It's got 2 stories. It'll really be intriguing. You can see the blue ACM wedge, as we call it. That also is at a 15-degree angle in a salute to Louis Chevrolet and his logo that he designed. And so bottom line, it's just, we're excited about it. Chevrolet's excited about it. And there are just some limitations that you guys have got to decide whether the overall picture makes enough sense to work with us and bend on this, or stick to what maybe was meant to be for JCPenney or Burger King or Kohl's. And then I don't know that it can work. So with all due respect, I appreciate everybody's time. I've probably taken up more time than I should, but I just wanted to give you a full explanation and full color renderings. By the way, the next step to this, assuming we get past this with an approval, is Randy will actually do a nighttime version that shows all of this lit up through his computer rendering. And then the third and final stage, which we'd love to share with you guys, it takes about 3 days with a high-speed computer to render it, but it actually puts a drone up in the air along Montgomery Road, along Union Cemetery, along Fields Ertel. It could fly down underneath our portico share. It literally builds the building dimensionally and 3-dimensionally, and then we show drone footage both in the day and the nighttime, and happy to present that to everybody. And we're just excited to do it, so you guys get excited about it. It cost about $20,000 to do that, but it'll be a neat thing to have on our website and a neat thing during the 1-year construction project to just kind of let people know here we grow again, and to show them what is going to be coming up out of this messy old kind of abandoned building. So with that, I thank everybody and I open it up to questions.
Thank you, Keith. We appreciate the presentation. I'm sure there are a number of questions from the committee. Does anybody in particular want to start?
I could start. First off, thank you, Keith. It's probably the most impressive Chevrolet dealership that I've ever seen. And
thank you.
We do appreciate you've put a lot of time and effort and thought into it, and we do hope it succeeds.
Thank you.
We like successful businesses in our community. I do have some questions, though. I guess the first question is, Keith, you mentioned that you'd like to remove the berm on Montgomery Road, and you said part of the reason why that was there was not to cover the tower, the radio tower or the cell tower, but you thought it was to cover the ugly back of the building. Did I miss a slide? Did you show us what the back of your building was going to look like?
Yeah. Let me see if I can back up here. Keep going. So you're referencing, I'm sorry, I have to go up here. You're referencing this side of the building.
Right. Yeah, I'm just kind of keying off what you were saying was you want to remove the berm because the reason why the berm was there was to cover the back of the building. Yours is a lot nicer looking. I didn't see that elevation.
Yeah, so I'm going to back up and look for it. If you guys have been along I-71 where we've got the 59 Corvette up on the second floor, that whole side of that service center, and this is part of why we're going through quite a bit of an additional expense to level the 16 shops that are in the current strip center. Because if we would have utilized that strip center, it would have been a garage door on the front and a garage door on the back with the two fronts of the cars meeting in the middle. And along Montgomery Road, and as you pulled into the main property, there would have been a lot of garage doors, and then obviously people looking into what's inside those garage doors. So in an effort to do something that is as first class as our King's Auto Mall location, we saw the only way to do that would be to build the 50,000 square foot kind of lighter roof that you see here and level the strip center that would have had a lot of garage doors in it. There are no garage doors in this whatsoever. This is how you get into the shop, through those very expensive $20,000 each super high-speed Rytec doors. The service write-up area ends about right here, and then the technicians' bays are kind of a labyrinth of lifts contained within this 50,000 square foot shell that's all first class looking all the way around the building. So with that, I'm going to back up, and it looks a lot like this side of the building. Justin is saying it was in the presentation.
It would be in Randy's pictures too.
Yeah, I mean, so it looks a lot like this without the courtesy transportation on it. It's going to have the metal panels. I don't have it.
But it won't have garage doors.
No. And in fact, even without you guys asking that be eliminated, we just felt that, the beauty of this building, left to right, north to south, 360 degrees around it, it deserved to be visible because of all the quality traffic driving up and down Montgomery Road, across Union Cemetery, and up and down Fields Ertel. So it's got, I'll put it this way, all the way down the side of it, there are $2,500 sconce lights that shoot white LED lighting up and down about every 30 feet. And then there's these little lights from Italy that put a Chevy blue PMS 300 cross that kind of hits the drive-it in between the sconce lights. It's the exact same effect that is along our property on 71. If you guys see that at night or you see it during the day, it's as beautiful as our showroom is. So no, trust me that we would never, there is no back of our building. I mean, the back of the building, a little bit, doesn't look like the front, but we're still putting all the skinning and the drive-it and the lighting, even in the back that nobody drives behind except our own team members.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers it, and we can certainly follow up with renderings that physically go down Montgomery Road side, but no, there's no customer facing anything there. That's why we want the curb cut. They have them pull underneath the service valet or pull to the left and go to the showroom or sales valet. We're not trying to steer them over there, but we want it to be a beautiful backdrop so it all kind of matches as you turn the building.
Yeah, I think you can understand why we're asking, just because if you're asking us to remove the berm, we just wanted to see what you're proposing then on that side.
100% agree. 100% agree. And you guys can have veto rights over it. If you have some good ideas on how to make it look better than we've got it, well, we'll do it. I mean, we want it to be super first class. Can everybody see my cursor moving on top of that building?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an ugly building. That's an ugly building. That's an ugly tower. Unfortunately, there's a 20-year lease on it, and there's nothing I can do about it, or they'd all be gone. Trust me. I mean, we're giving up all the money on all the leases in the strip center, but that's one that just AT&T's got the rights to be there for the next 20 years. So berming here, beautiful idea. Berming along here, beautiful idea. Berming tapering down here with like nice boulders and flowers and irrigation. So the curb cut is beautiful and the sign looks good. That's what we're talking about, is in this area here. I don't care if that's higher. In fact, we're going to spend probably $30,000 in arborvitaes that isn't even required. It's all still pervious surface, but we're going to have, starting here and wrapping around that and wrapping around that, again, will be very tall, 12-foot tall arborvitaes that touch each other, like you would kind of see as you went down a grand entrance to, a country club lane, let's say. So then when people are driving along Montgomery Road, the berm doesn't really block much of the ugliness, quite frankly. It's just an ugly berm, in my opinion. Hell, there's no landscaping on it. It's just an ugly grass berm. We're going to have a much better sidewalk along there. We're going to crisscross mow the berm. We're going to irrigate the berm, and we're going to flower up the berm and put arborvitaes on it. So totally love any input that any of you might have on the landscaping looking like the masters. And I'm serious about that. It's one of the biggest reasons we believe we're the #1 retailer in the auto mall, is because we go out of our way to be different and be inviting and have all those beautiful flowers.
Yeah. So
hell, we've got a company, I don't even trust my own lot techs to water them. We pay a company $5,000 a month to come fertilize and water the flowers and trees that aren't irrigated because they look beautiful.
right. Well, all right. Well, appreciate that, and maybe we can catch up on a landscape plan, because you're taking out. You want to take out the sidewalk on Montgomery Road. I don't see it replaced. You probably do have it in your plan to replace, but obviously we don't see it, especially on this plan. So
yep, I don't know why that's not there, but it's going to look a lot like the one along Fields, Ertel, and Union Cemetery, set back with the grass and probably 5 or maybe even 6 feet wide.
Right. Okay. So let me move on, because I know there's other people going to want to ask some questions. So on your parking, you said you got 423 for your sales and then 357 for your employees. And you mentioned in your commentary that the 357, you have just tons of parking for your employees, which begs the question then, is it possible to reduce the number for the employees and therefore increase the number for your cars, especially if we push you back off that front row a little bit and get out of the right-of-way area?
Very fair question. Day one, month one, maybe even year one, there will be an excess of team member parking spaces. But trust me, the bank and Chevrolet are not looking for us to not grow in this super high visibility property with the investment we're putting in it. So as we add team members, I don't have any more land to buy, and I've got to be able to give them a parking space to have them come in and work on a car, or wait on a guest, or serve Starbucks coffee. So it's really, Chevrolet looks at this and they know the kind of traffic and throughput that can occur with warranty work and customer pay work and service, and in a new and used car sales department. And for what our expectations are and their expectations are, the 357, it'll probably always have, ideally, like Brian said, perfect world, you'd like to have 4, 5, 8, 10 customer parking spaces, or guest parking spaces, as we call it, always available, even on the busiest Saturday, right after Memorial Day. So yes, there'll be some empty spaces. And quite frankly, when you look at the way we laid the berming out, there's even extra berming here. So if you look at this plan versus the one Brian had, we wanted to delineate, where vehicles for sale would be here and here. And if you go behind that additional row through here and all of the greenery, this is where we then get to guest parking and or employee parking. So it really is, about where it needs to be. You can't pay for a project like this if you've got 50 or 100 or 200 more unused, customer or employee parking spaces, because then guess what? We're not selling cars and we're not covering the bills, and it just really is pretty scientific. I mean, just like, a Walmart or a JCPenney or a retailer, has a pretty good idea of what their turn on their inventory is sitting on the shelves. You got to be scientific about that, or you're not in business in today's competitive world. And for us, that's all about these display spaces out there. And it's not really Keith's opinion. It's General Motors saying, sure, we'll support this. We'll sign off on this. And I had to arm wrestle with them. You make us shave back 20 feet that nobody else in the history of this property had to, and we lose those parking spaces along there. It's not just, okay, I got to go get on bended knee up in Detroit and tell them that I didn't get the job done, and I don't even have as much parking as wasn't enough parking.
Okay.
And I don't see what it hurts. Obviously, if they ever came along and said, we're going to cut back and widen Union Cemetery Road, well, guess what? Then we or anybody that owns the property would have to honor that and back up. But meanwhile, it just doesn't make sense for our business because what we sell fills up a 9x19 parking space. We're not in the jewelry business. We don't sell apples and oranges. What we sell is big and takes up a lot of space, and it's expensive. And the less of it you've got, here's the formula. We turn our inventory about every 35 days. Take 40 cars away, and we'll sell about 35 less cars every month for the rest of my life and my son's lives. If you put a number to that, it's millions of dollars.
Okay. So, well, appreciate the answer. So let me move on to signs for a second. I know this is going to be kind of a hot topic. It's a hot topic for you. I'm sure it's a hot topic for us. So I guess the one question I had, and I think you did answer it. So you have two of your main signs. Thank you. Monument number 1 and monument number 2. So are those basically, I mean, for the lack of a better term, are those televisions basically? Is what I'm going to look at.
It's not the resolution of a TV because people see them from a bigger distance. They're high def LED lights that are very, very, very close together. But if you walked right up to it or put it in your living room, it wouldn't be the kind of picture you're used to looking at. But yes, for all intents and purposes, you can change the message on there similar to the way you would on a TV.
And is it mostly, are you going to have like messages, or are you just going to basically have pictures of cars?
Yeah, it needs to be something that just shows the passion and the professionalism of the product. So right there is a ZR2 Chevy Colorado. We would put a C8 Corvette like you guys might have seen over my shoulder in my office on the Zoom meeting. We're not trying to put a lot of words up there. We just wanted to, kind of excite the drive-by public with the world-class. GM spends millions and millions and millions of dollars, as you could imagine, with photography and video. And as a franchisee of theirs, we have full access to that at no charge. So to be able to put those up and kind of, excite or invite the customer in, that's the purpose behind, that 6-foot by 11-foot board.
Yeah, and I think you're putting in millions of dollars into this endeavor, and we appreciate that. We also want to protect what's going on around you and protect what we're doing here and make the right decisions. So we're not going to have, or you're not going to make like a gaudy sign that next thing you know is not a cool looking truck like this, but it's going to say clearance, clearance, clearance. That type of thing.
You can put into this approval, that Keith McCluskey, if we ever get gaudy, Vine Street, used car, flashy, that you can have my sign and put it somewhere in Symmes Township to promote your township. I do think, if you guys came to me and said, boy, we've got, a fireworks display July 4th, and we really wish the drive-by public knew more about that event in Symmes Township, and you design something that you'd like me to put up there, trust me, that's the kind of first-class community communication that we would love to do. But no, they will absolutely positively be as first class as the building behind it is.
Okay. Those are my questions for now. I'm sure there's other board members have questions. And thanks a lot, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So Keith, this is Jeff Reichman, and I have a few questions. Staying on that sign for a second, are those going to be static images, or will that be an image of that truck rolling down that road?
So it has the capability to be that truck rolling down the road. It also has the capability of just being a still shot, very similar to what you see on the screen there.
Right. I know in the past we have had questions or concerns from other sign applicants with regard to, the amount of movement that occurs on a sign and it both being a distraction and I think, as George said, the potentiality for being gaudy, which I think you've allayed that concern, but nonetheless, whether we really want to have, movie night, heading down Fields Ertel.
Yeah. So Jeff, you're thinking the right way, and I agree with you. If part of the approval was, that there's limited movement or there's only static images, obviously that can be programmed in. And quite frankly, we believe the product is strong enough, right? The Tahoe, the Suburban, the C8 Corvette, the Silverado. I personally think a lot of times they look better as a still shot than they do moving because it is a distraction. What we really want the public to see is the word Chevrolet above it and the word McCluskey, and just generally know that this super cool looking facility behind it sells these products that are on that sign. So that's one that I can be flexible on for sure. I mean, they're expensive boards. They're meant to be video, but regulating that down or tampering that down to be first class and just have the cell itself kind of just peel off or fade like a very professional PowerPoint into the next picture still shows off our product, and maybe even better shows off our product than if it was moving. So right. I'm open to that one for sure, honestly.
Okay. In regard to the flagpole, have you done any kind of analysis to determine whether that flagpole is going to be visible from any residential areas?
I have not. So, it's one that, at the end of the day, big investment, proud to be an American. Like I said before, Chevrolet is a made in America brand. I would hope that people that would see this brand new, beautiful new, flag would be more of a sense of pride than, oh my gosh, I can see that in the horizon. We do have one picture, Randy, which one was it that showed there it sits. I mean, if someone somewhere saw that above, let's say, the Kohl's building blowing in the wind, I don't know. The reason I saw this, quite frankly, I was down in Dallas, Texas. You guys could Google it. Clay Cooley Chevrolet has what they call the world's tallest Chevrolet flag. And then TQL matched that size. So, could we be that size or a little smaller and still have a nice flag? Absolutely. And I guess there could be some flexibility there. Cost me more to be taller, but I kind of just feel like it's the epicenter, of Symmes Township and the general area out there. It's right in the middle of this highly visible 16 acres, and we'll spend six-figure money plus the flags for the rest of time to really put something in there that's at first class. But no, I've not done that. And if you want us to do that, as part of the approval process, because you generally support the idea of a big investment in our American flag that way, then we would be happy to do any studies like that if that was part of what, the commission wanted us to do.
Yeah, and I hear your point, Keith, and I'm not trying to be in any way contrarian or to your thought process here, but look, people who reside in and around the area have just as much right to look at the sky as they do to your flag, and I'm I'm a big advocate of looking at sky and not looking at buildings, flags, water towers, telephone poles, and everything else.
I hear you. I mean, one thing I would say as a reference point, and I don't know who at Symmes Township approved this, but the ugly tower in the back that has no American flag blowing on it, is generally about that same height.
Right.
And so I don't know, why are there no height restrictions on that?
I agree with you entirely on that. In regard to the parking situation and your concern that there is a potentiality that you don't have enough parking, I assume that that's consistent with your current operations, and that's why you have vehicles going back and forth to your Commerce Drive building back and forth. Do you anticipate that you're going to have that same kind of Penske Racing streetcar situation on Commerce Boulevard?
When you say Penske Racing, I'm not following that.
I mean, your guys and gals that drive up and down Commerce Drive, treat it like the Indy 500.
Well, I mean, they shouldn't and could be terminated for it. One time we worked with Loveland and sat back there, and somebody that was zipping along there, wasn't our employee. We've got less employees than everybody else back there. So just a car going fast doesn't necessarily mean it's us. But no, they absolutely should not. That is a drop-off point because we care about this and the King's Auto Mall being a first-class location. So when you sell over 1,000 vehicles a month, you have to drop off over 1,000 vehicles a month. So when the big car carriers show up and eat up the road space and need to drop off 8 vehicles, we want that to be at the dead end side of Loveland Commerce Park and not be along Fields Ertel or in this parking lot, which every other dealership in the country and every dealership in the auto mall, that's the way we get our product. We don't have a loading dock that you push it into like JCPenney did. That's what happens. And so that off-site at the end of a cul-de-sac is really meant to be a benefit to the flow of, customers and employee parking, especially at this location. It's going to look a whole lot like the current picture that's on there. We're not going to ever have those carriers show up like that.
This is John McCullough, CFO of McCluskey. I'm here with Keith, and I work over at Loveland, and, I think some of that might be more rumor than it. I mean, obviously people speed everywhere. It happens. But like Keith said, the last couple of times where there was complaints, we went out and it was actually one of the other neighboring people that was speeding. And our logistics manager over there, Todd Bucher, really runs a tight ship. Gina Owens, the controller, is watching everybody. I mean, if that is happening, I mean, first thing early tomorrow morning, I'm going to get in there and talk to everybody in the building. But we absolutely, make sure we drive safely over there.
Yeah, we did have one young lock tech. We wrote him up. We then did a 3-day suspension. It's kind of 3 strikes and you're out here. And that one team member actually did get terminated because we felt he wasn't driving appropriately. So no, we take that super seriously. I mean, my goodness.
We even had,
my insurance rates are high enough without, having some silliness like that going on.
We even set up a new form in Human Resources where every employee in the building signed an affidavit that they'll follow the speed limit. They won't text and drive, the whole safe driving affidavit.
We have some of the lowest insurance rates in the industry. If somebody has more than 4 points, they have no driving privileges, whether you're a technician, a lot tech, or a salesperson. We're a drug-free workplace, have been since 1984. There's a lot of different, you guys might have seen it in the paper. We're 6 years in a row as a top 100 places to work. I mean, I don't think there's anybody better for this property than a privately held local family business putting the pride and passion into making this thing look this way. And trust me, you guys can call me. I don't screen my calls. You can have my cell phone. Every customer, I don't have a secretary. Somebody walks in, they walk in. We take care of customers, and we will not tolerate speeding or reckless driving.
Well, I'm glad to hear that from both of you. As somebody who lives in the general area and walks my dog along Commerce Drive a lot, I can just tell you that whether it's because of the employee parking out on the street or the speed with which people are driving. It has become a more dangerous thoroughfare, since that facility was open.
Yeah, we're working with Dave Kennedy at Loveland, and when that, there's going to be a repavement of all that property back, that road back there. They're going to put up, quite frankly, a sign very similar to what we're suggesting here with a digital board on it at the Union Cemetery Commerce T-Bone. They're going to do a traffic light study there to maybe see if a traffic light, could be added.
And I'll just chime in again that it didn't fall on deaf ears. I mean, I'm a very, very, very careful driver. I keep an eye out, and I think we're doing fairly decent, but I'm not watching it 24/7, and I really appreciate the feedback, and I'll make sure that an all-employee Loveland memo goes out tomorrow morning, just reminding everybody to be safe and remind them that they signed an affidavit to that effect already, and it's in Human Resources.
Just another way that, we could evidence that we're a good neighbor. If you talk to Eva Wisby at Loveland or Dave Kennedy, the city manager, there were a couple constituents across the valley that, felt that either our lighting or the fact that they saw cars, wasn't something they wanted. Dave reminded them that they moved in next to a commerce park. But instead of just sticking with that, we put up a black windshield fence, planted evergreens all along the south side of the property, and put an $18,000, kind of 24-hour monitoring lighting system that tones the lights down to 5% at night. And then if somebody jumps the fence or if a raccoon walks along, it kicks them up from a security standpoint. But we didn't have to do any of that. And quite frankly, the city of Loveland didn't even require we did it. We just did it. Here recently, I just purchased that's why I know the arborvitaes can easily be put around and shield those two ugly boxes back in the back. We spent $132,000 buying 10-foot tall arborvitaes out of Cleveland, the largest arborvitae farm in the country. And we're lining all of our property lines back in Loveland Commerce Park, not because anybody asked us to do it. We just felt like it was the right thing to do to kind of further camouflage our beautiful cars sitting there. But if somebody else doesn't feel they're beautiful, we're putting up big arborvitaes. And anyway, if you guys know Eva or Dave, call and talk to them. If you know Lois McKnight or Haifa, they say we're the only dealership in the auto mall that listens to their rules and doesn't park in their right of way in the grass in front of the light line. We don't park there, and we irrigate it and feel like we are more successful because we do follow the rules, because it looks more beautiful. We want this to look better than Kings Island.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm struggling with the concept of what was presented to us for approval and what is being shown to us via Zoom. And I always have an issue with what is being approved or, for that fact, disapproved based on what is submitted. And as we're looking at this aerial view in front of us, you actually are showing parking which looks to be in the right-of-way. You're also showing the building is different than what was planned. And I struggle with that. If you're going to come in front of the board, I understand, but if you're going to come in front of the board, I would prefer that the documentation be 100% correct. Going back to what George was saying, is what you believe is ugly is someone else's beauty. And I'm not sure that the berm along Montgomery Road needs to be removed based on what we are seeing, because the side on Montgomery Road does look like quote unquote back of house. I struggle with that. And also from a zoning perspective, cost is somewhat irrelevant. It's not an economic issue. It's a use issue from the benefit of the community as a whole. And as we look at it, is this a benefit or a detriment to the community? The value that you put upon it and the cost that you do it is your business, and that's how businesses make money. There's a revenue side and there's an expense side, and we all understand that. I appreciate what you're trying to say, but I'm really struggling with trying to give any recommendation on a presentation that does not follow what is in my package.
Appreciate that. Is Kim on the phone call from Symmes Township?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, Brian, you're on the call still, right?
That's right.
70 days ago, did we show you guys these pictures? I've given you guys everything that you've asked for at every meeting I've come to.
No, I do not have these plans. They've never been submitted to us. They've been presented in PowerPoint presentations at various times, but the actual site plans that were required to be submitted, that were submitted to us, that were distributed to the commission, are not these plans. I have not seen this plan that showed the berm with the employee separation of the parking lot that you showed in the middle of the parking lot. The site plans that I have show 2 signs. They don't show 4 signs. I don't have any indication as to what you're doing with the mound on Montgomery Road, other than to the plan that says that it's being completely removed. I don't have those plans. Nobody's submitted those plans to us.
So all I can say is every time that we had another meeting, and they've been a good exercise because we've massaged and moved and done things that GM is asking us to do, and have provided pictures and color pictures and these renderings and PowerPoints. The berm along Montgomery Road, the company that did the traffic study doesn't want a berm if there's a right in, right out because of the visibility of the oncoming traffic without a light. It's not that big of a deal. It's going to look way more beautiful.
No, it is a big deal because it's a zoning issue versus a traffic issue versus a GM issue. We're not beholden to GM. We are beholden to the residents of Symmes Township. Okay. GM has their issues based on what they believe is their business plan. Their business plan is someone who literally travels the country. I understand that there are different municipalities that have different restrictions, and GM fully understands that. So to have GM beholden upon us is irrelevant in my mind. And I really struggle with a presentation that's in a PowerPoint that disappears as soon as I hit leave meeting, opposed to what is presented to me. The porte-cochere is a case in point. That is not shown on the plan that is in front of me. This elevation of cars facing Fields Ertel is not shown on the plan in front of me. I do not appreciate showing something that's different than what you're asking us to approve or disapprove.
I apologize. I mean, everything that we have been asked to present from the first meeting when I went through these same basic color pictures with Brian and Kim over at Symmes Township, to the next meeting and the next meeting and then this meeting. Hell, I'm proud of these pictures. If anybody asked me to run copies of these pictures, I'd have been happy to do it. I thought I was doing the right thing to present it tonight.
Well, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation isn't the issue. What the issue is I can't scale this. There are no numbers on this. I can't use this to determine if it complies with zoning or not. The site plan that was submitted, right? So this is the site plan. This plan was never submitted. I've got the actual site plan that was submitted that came after the meeting with you and Kim at the township when you actually applied, and those plans are what we based our staff report on. Since we got those plans and we wrote the staff report, I've received no revised plans. I've seen discussions about changes being made to the plan.
We weren't holding anything back. These literally just got done this week based on all the feedback we've got from McGill Smith Punchin and the meeting we had in Hamilton County a couple weeks ago. I mean,
so that's where we're at. I mean, you have a revised plan that hasn't been reviewed. Like I said, I can't tell the commission that the staff report even applies to this plan. I don't know what's changed since I wrote the staff report.
It's the evolution
for me to be able to tell you. And I can't do it now. I mean, you could give me the list of things that have changed, but I can't review the plan on the screen against the code. I need a plan that actually I can scale. You know,
The only-
paper submittal that was submitted originally that we
The only
sent
thing that we came away from that meeting for was we were going to continue to request the poles that match our neighbors. Number two, the signage along the roads. And number three, the balance of parking between our guests and having the right balance because of the fact that we sell our vehicles on the same blacktop. It's different than other retail. And we feel like these numbers are right in line with what should feel good to Symmes Township and certainly has been approved by Chevrolet. I'm not saying you bend to Chevrolet. I'm just saying I have to bend to Chevrolet.
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not saying that any of this is good or bad. I'm just saying that I haven't gotten any revised plans. So I don't know what's changed on this plan. Like I said, I don't know what to tell the commission because the staff report now is wrong in several areas based on the plan that you've submitted.
Here, Justin
what Mr. Eder is saying he has in front of him is the actual submittal that you guys gave us. The stuff that goes into PowerPoints, the ideas that you guys have, the stuff that's just done tonight, those are all good things. I mean, you're obviously thinking about it, you're putting together revised plans, but I'm just saying I've never received them, so I don't have any findings about this plan that's on the screen right now.
Justin Conger wants to say something real quick here.
Brian, I think your point's valid. I think maybe the miscommunication or misalignment is, I think MSP is kind of taking what was received from your staff report out of the June 3rd meeting, and we're already kind of going down a path to answer your question about separation of parking, which is why we have some of that island shown here. Or as part of the final development plan, yeah, we're kind of, I guess, giving a preview to the commission with what is going to be submitted by McGill Smith Punchin as part of the final development plan. So, you know, to your, there's a question earlier, and to your point, hey, we gave a broad-based view. McGill Smith Punchin originally submitted to regional planning. We reviewed that broad-based review and those drawings on June 3rd. This is the next evolution of those. So maybe it's a cart before the horse or a preview to the commission of, hey, we're listening. We're trying to take your input. You had a question and concern about signage. We wanted to show you the square footage of signage in detail. You had a question about separation of parking between retail and employees. We wanted to show you, hey, we're listening. We're taking what you're saying, and we're trying to incorporate the things that make business sense for our client into these drawings. So you're right. There may be some confusion. We again, maybe got the proverbial cart before the horse, but I think that may be some of the understanding. We're not trying to put anything over. We're just, I think, ahead a little bit in making sure we continue to proceed down a path of getting the final development plan submitted.
But I think that's what Brian's trying to explain is you presented a set of plans. Brian then commented on them based on the current zoning that's in place and the plan unit development. You now have presented a different set of plans that go against what Brian recommended. And you've made a specific point in your presentation to go around the community and measure light poles and signage. And
because we were told they were 15 feet tall.
I understand, but hear me out. But my concern at this point is you will use this presentation against us because we have seen it, but not seen it. We've seen it in a PowerPoint presentation or whatever use you're using as leverage going forward. And that is not where we're at today. As Brian has stated, I'm not sure that anyone is necessarily overly opposed to what you're doing. I have issues with your overall plan as what it stands today and what it's going, but that's another issue. I'm not sure that we have the right information and the right recommendation to move forward at this time is what I am trying to explain.
I might recommend that we table this for a month and request that Keith and his team provide Brian with the accurate information, and that Brian come back to us at our next meeting, and Keith and your team as well, to review the reviewed information and then allow us to make a up or down vote accordingly.
Are you making a motion, Jeff?
So,
I don't know if this is the right time to do that. We haven't heard from the public yet, but that would be my inclination, George.
gets narrower.
I don't know that we have any other choice. We're not going to make a decision based on something that isn't in the plans that Brian reviewed and commented on.
So review and comment on those and approve that plan. And when do we get to when we get to the final development plan? This is the natural progression of every project.
So I mean, the big ticket items that we were talking about earlier, the things that we review, like signage. For example, you submitted a plan that had 2 signs on it. We wrote a report and made a recommendation based on those 2 signs, and now you're asking for 4. They move forward with the plan that they have tonight. There's 2 signs on that plan. Do you want them to move forward on that plan, or would you like them to wait? I mean, those are the
That's a
kind of
fair
things.
question, Brian. I'm Keith. I've always knew that there were 4 signs. I'm not quite sure why on that plan, McGill Smith Puncheon didn't have the other signs, but those are critically important. So I am a little bit, my head's in a vice a little bit, with Casto Realty. I don't know. I mean, it could just, like, they'll just go list the property and sell it to somebody else. I don't know. I feel, again, like my head's in a vice because I'd love to do this project, but the only thing I could say tonight is it sounds like you guys, don't want to move forward with the things we've requested and presented. If we table it for some future date, all I can do is write a letter to Casto and see if they want to wait a little longer. But I can promise you at this point, they're not excited about waiting at all.
Once
there
again,
bond
Rob,
buyers for
that's
big
an
retail sites
economic
these days?
issue, not a zoning issue.
But
The
Brian,
zoning process does give you the authority to continue the public hearing in progress to the next month's meeting.
Brian,
Obviously, I know you know that, but for Mr. McCluskey's benefit, I mean, that is a part of the process that is permitted, along with the trustees who would have to set a public hearing after this commission takes action on a recommendation. They would have to have a public hearing, and they also have the ability to continue the public hearing in progress if they need more information.
Brian,
Yes.
for clarification's sake, you asked a question a minute ago. The commission can vote on the plan and as per submitted by Regional Planning Commission that it was presented in your presentation tonight, if we so elect that to happen. Is that correct?
No, you don't get to decide that. The commission would have to decide to do that.
Okay.
You could ask them to consider doing that, but
Okay.
you can't make them do that.
Yes, yes, thank you for the clarification.
Keith, this is George Flynn. I think you've got a nice program here. I think our board probably has some things we'd like to see altered, but I think you're going to spend a lot of money, and you're probably going to be here for 25, 30 years, probably beyond you and myself's lifetime. Okay, so I know I'm in the business, so I understand contracts and that kind of thing, but this is a big decision for you. It's a big decision for us. I think you want to do the right thing. I think we've heard that out of you numerous times. We want to do the right thing as well. I'm just suggesting, and I think this is where we're headed, that we table this till we get a better program from your engineer and architect, and then we tackle it, at the next meeting, which is mid-July. And I know you don't want to hear that, but I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, respectfully, I, appreciate everybody's time. I'm not sure what you guys need to do next to just close the meeting, but all I can do is see if that works or not. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
So other than the parking being rearranged and two signs that we're requesting, the building really hasn't changed that much. I'm not quite sure, other than that, the actual parking's gotten better, not worse. We have more landscaping, not less. Flow of the parking and the definition of the parking is better, which is a request of what you ask us to do at final development plan. So if you say, go back to what it was, and then we'll deal with it later, that's okay.
I think what we're saying is we're looking at a PowerPoint presentation, which is a really nice presentation and has additional information on it that we don't have in our packets. And so when that happens, now we're disjointed. You know, if we're supposed to say, hey, we're voting on two signs, which is what was initially submitted, and Keith's saying, no, there's four signs here, and they're different, and they've got LED lights on them, and potentially they're kind of a cool looking reader board. That's entirely different discussion that we're having, right? I mean, that's not even close to what the packet that we've got and the information we've got and what staff looked at and what staff commented on. Those are two entirely different, you know, that's a day baseball game versus a night baseball game. I mean, it's two different things. So,
yeah.
But you can also add conditions that the trustees would then have to review. I don't see the significance of these issues.
I don't think that you're making it more streamlined by going through that process. I think it will create confusion. It will create potential litigation opportunities. And I think all of us who've been on this commission for, you know, I'm the youngest and I've been on for a couple of years. So we have seen what has gone through. And I think, you know, speaking for my colleagues on the commission, on the zoning commission, I think you'd be in a better position by giving us the most accurate, best information, letting it sit for a month. Keith, I certainly understand your point that maybe they're going to decide to sell this and open up, 15 more fast food and car washes. And I guess that's a potential risk that we would have to address. But, you know, that's a big piece of property. There's probably very few potential suitors for that property. So I feel confident that an extra month in this process will give you the satisfaction that you've presented your best foot forward for us to make a decision. So
Yeah, I respect that. Greg Malone's a good guy. Adam fights. I mean, I'll do my best, to talk to them about how this all went. It's just contractually, it goes past the date that they were willing to wait till. So I guess my only question would be, if we pulled together, more of the exact details that Brian or the commission wants in every last detail, and maybe there's better communication somehow, some way to me or me to you guys. I feel bad that we're even kind of having this, call it a confrontation. I thought that I was doing everything that everybody wanted me to do. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to Kim over at Symmes Township, and what do I need to do here, and what do I need to do there, and what do I need to fill out, and what do I need to bring? I'm shocked that I've screwed this up. But I guess I have. But, could we possibly meet prior to the next mid-July meeting? Greg Malone's going to expect me to ask that. The answer might be no and hell no. But is it possible to not be a full 30-day supply? Because it doesn't, to me, feel like we're that far away from showing everybody exactly what we thought you wanted to see, with just digging in a little bit on the light poles, because that's what it takes to light our product properly. But would it be possible, I guess is my question, to do something prior to mid-July as called a special meeting, or do we just simply need to wait till mid-July?
I don't believe that there is enough time for the township to send out the notices for next month's meeting for this case to be heard in any less than a month.
Okay.
And obviously, staff is going to have to review whatever you do submit and modify the report, et cetera. Brian, I would be interested in some clarification on the lighting issue and signage issues. Obviously, precedents and what other businesses in the township have been permitted to do is very relevant. I mean, I think we're all very pleasantly surprised at what this proposed project looks like. And certainly we don't want to be in a situation where we're not allowing this business to do what a bunch of others are doing, if they are indeed doing that. And I'm not saying, Keith, that you don't know how to measure, but obviously Brian has indicated one thing and you've indicated another. So I think we want to get some clarification. But again, this is a very aesthetically attractive project. I think we want good businesses in the township, and in fairness to you, we certainly don't want to be arbitrarily keep maintaining rules that we're not requiring others to do.
Sure.
So
thank you.
I would like some clarification on that, because I think prior to this meeting, everybody was definitely leaning against some of those requests, and depending on what else is going on, we may have to reconsider those.
Yeah, I'll do the research on the other projects that have been approved in the area that was identified tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Greg Malone with Casto. Am I being heard?
Yes.
9956 Kings Auto Mall Drive. We're the current owners of the property, and I have a couple of questions. May I ask those? Is it okay?
I'm sorry, Greg, I'm confused as to who you represent. Are you?
We're the owner. We're the current owner of the property.
Of the J.C. Penney property?
Yes.
Okay.
My questions just are in regards to what exactly does Mr. McCluskey need to submit? I assume he's submitting it to Brian. And when is the last date he can get it to Brian in order to be on the July agenda?
So we have a submittal of plans that do not include lighting plans or signage plans, and those need to be revised. If you want the detailed signage plans to be considered, those need to be submitted. In any of the detailed site plan stuff, like for instance, I don't need colored renderings from the sky. I don't need the renderings from the sides. I need scalable site plans with all of the details that you want to be considered, and elevations of signs so that we can calculate the square foot areas. I mean, I'm only interested in the zoning details, zoning related details of the site. So those things, we need revised site plans of all the ones that we've got, and any of the other additional detailed items that you would like the commission to consider as part of their approval. And I would need them 2 weeks before the next meeting to have enough time to review them and get them the information in their packet a week before.
So when is that date?
Are you guys referring to this same meeting, but the next month's, like July's, the Symmes Township zoning meeting? Just to be clear, that's the meeting we're talking about?
Right,
Yes.
which is on the 21st of July.
Okay.
So the 21st, so you're going to need that July 6th or 7th.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And then if it gets pushed to next month, then it would still then, based on some recommendation and some approval, it would then go to the trustees in August. Is that accurate?
It would go to the trustees whenever the trustees would schedule it. I don't schedule those meetings.
but they likely have a meeting in August, likely. And I'm not asking.
They will have to send out notices of the public hearing as well. So they will have to have time. I mean, if this meeting happens July 21st and their meeting is like the first Monday of August, they're probably not going to have enough time to send out the notices. It probably won't be heard till September.
Okay. Thank you.
Brian, in light of where we're headed on this in terms of deferring until we get more information, do we need to do any public comment tonight?
I don't, as far as what your positions are. I mean, as far as the zoning commission public comment, I mean, there's nobody from the public that wants to speak. I think Greg Malone was the last person that hadn't spoken.
Okay.
Just in regard to the additional work product that is going to be provided, if there is, particularly with the height of that flagpole, if any assessment of its impact on any residential areas could be ascertained, I think that would be very much appreciated.
Okay.
Brian, are flagpoles regulated per zoning? American flagpoles?
I believe a flagpole with the American flag on it is allowed to be erected to any safe and lawful height. So, I mean, when you're getting up to that point, you might want to talk to the FAA about it, but kind of a joke. No, I don't think there's a zoning restriction on an American flagpole. I'll double check that though for sure. I believe that there's an exemption for that.
That's what the flag
That's my
company told us.
So at this point, do I need a formal motion to table this until we get more information and resume discussion next month?
Yes, somebody would have to make a motion to continue the hearing in progress until next month's meeting.
Okay, somebody want to make that motion?
Well, since I started this, I think I will make a motion to table this discussion of Symmes 2021-01 till next month.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Jana?
We can't hear you, Jana. She's muted, yeah.
Jana, you're muted.
Brian, do you want to call it out?
Sure. Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Kessler,
Yes.
Mr. Etter,
No.
Mr. Reichman.
Yes,
Sorry, Mr. Etter, what did you vote?
he voted no.
No.
Mr. Reichman voted yes. I'm sorry, Ms. Bucco.
Yes.
So 4-1, the motion passes. The meeting is continued until next month.
Do we have any old business?
I do not. I'm not sure if Jana does, but I do not.
No, we got to decide are we going to do this meeting Zoom or are we going to do it at the safety center?
It has to be at the Safety Center next month.
Okay,
That's fine.
In-person meeting next month.
okay.
Obviously there's this on next month's schedule. Any other new business?
I don't believe that there will be any other cases next month, though.
Okay. Are there any administrative matters?
No.
Can I get a motion for adjournment then?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Motion? Go ahead, Joe.
I said I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Ms. Bucco,
Yes.
Mr. Etter,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Kessler,
Yes.
Mr. Reichman.
Yes.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. Sorry we screwed this up.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.